Let's bring in former State Department Senior Advisor Christian Whiton for more on all this. So, Christian, we're still waiting to hear exactly what those troops might be used for. But is there a red line that Iran has to cross before we see specific U.S. action?
You know, I think realistically, you have to realize we crossed that long ago. Don't just look at this announcement that Iran is taking another giant leap forward when it comes to nuclear blackmail. Look at the pattern that Secretary Pompeo has laid out. They tried to bomb our embassy in Baghdad. They have succeeded in injuring U.S. troops in Kabul. They have attacked not just the 2 tankers recently, but they sabotaged 4 tankers previously, making good on their promise to close the Persian Gulf or to affect commerce in the Persian Gulf. And then look at their history since 1979. This is a regime that for 40 years has seen itself as at war with the United States, in charge of spreading war throughout the Middle East and killing Americans. They've been pushing on an open door with virtually no response, no serious response from successive U.S. administrations. And it's time to push back. They attacked us with a maritime assault, so that is a perfect avenue for retaliation to strike their maritime capabilities, and we can maintain escalation dominance by promising to disable their nuclear program if they take this any farther.
Christian, it's Jonathan Honig. Thank you for being with us. I mean, as you mentioned, look, Iran is the #1, along with Saudi Arabia, state sponsor of terrorism. They've been at war with this country since the late 1970s. What would it take, in your professional opinion? I remember Reagan's famous, or I think very successful, airstrikes on those Libyan outposts back in the mid-1980s. What would it take for President Trump to enact the same sort of preemptive strike against some sort of nuclear generation capabilities within Iran?
Yeah, I think that's a great example, and I think he has what it needs. Iran doesn't need a nuclear program. It says this is for energy. That's a lie. Iran is awash with energy resources, in particular hydrocarbons. Their centrifuges and their stockpile of uranium, which they said they're going to expand, is a pathway to a uranium bomb like the one that we dropped on Hiroshima. They have a nuclear reactor that they don't need.
You think President Trump would launch a preemptive strike?
It's not preemptive at this point. This is a response. And incidentally, this, as you point out, could just be a punitive expedition like what we did against Libya. It's not like Iraq. It's not like Afghanistan. It's not like Libya. I think at this point you have to. Also, that's the way to prevent this from escalating further. You know, we need to free up resources to focus on China. And if we do something like escorting tankers and pouring more resources in the Middle East indefinitely, that will distract us from other more pressing issues.
Christian, there was some writing this over the weekend about how Iran really cannot afford any kind of prolonged military conflict. Is that part of the reason that you're so confident that a targeted strike of some sort could sort of end this tit-for-tat that we're engaged in now?
Yeah, Liz, I think that Iran is at the end of its logistical chain. It's overextended. You have people in Iran who are protesting, actually, the regime's support for Hamas, for Hezbollah, these faraway adventures as Iranians have a very difficult time within. You know, it's not, I don't think a strike would be done in the name of regime change or making the world safe for democracy, but that is an added benefit. That it's paradoxical. I mean, you think no one would want bombs dropped on their own country, but it would weaken the regime in the eyes of a people that we know don't support this regime. And that's ultimately how you're going to get security in the region when this theocratic Islamist regime is replaced by something more secular.
You know, Jonathan made the point, Christian, that Saudi Arabia is also one of the great sponsors of state terrorism, and yet we cozy up to Saudi Arabia. There's certainly no talk about military action against them. And you're making a full-throated advocacy for a military strike, for which there is precious little domestic constituency for in a democracy. So if you want to make that case, the president, his administration should go to Congress, should talk about what they are allowed to do under the War Powers Act, especially because there's been no direct action against the United States. We pulled out of a multilateral agreement that was supposed to limit Iran's nuclear capacity. I'm sure you would poo-poo that till the cows come home. But you're basically making an argument without any particular democratic advocacy.
I don't think he agrees with you.
First of all, I think the families of the 1,000-plus dead Americans killed by Iran and their proxies
don't start talking about how many people have been killed. We can talk about Jamal Khashoggi in Saudi Arabia, too.
Marines who were killed in Beirut in 1983 would disagree with you. This is a regime that's seen itself as war. But you make an important point. There was one in the Cold War where liberals in this country said we shouldn't support governments that weren't fully democratic, like the Philippines, like Taiwan, like South Korea. But in fact, those regimes allied with the United States. We're capable of reform, as is Saudi Arabia. Theocratic regimes, Islamist regimes, I can't think of a single one that's ever reformed into something secular. They need to be replaced. They need to be put back in a box, and that's why we need a kinetic solution to Iran at this point.
Good last point, Christian. We got to leave it there. Thank you very much for being here. Christian Whiton.